Hello, my name's Richard Felix and I'm going to take you on a tour of haunted North Wales. North Wales, land of druids and dragons, Neolithic standing stones and stone circles, and of course, ghosts. Some of the ghost stories that you'll hear are of real ghosts, of entities and souls and spirits. Others, I believe, will be stories of recordings made because it was a tragic or traumatic death, still recorded in the fabric of some of Wales's oldest castles. But what better place to start this video than here outside Powys Castle, a 13th century castle with more ghosts than you'd ever believe. A white lady that wanders the castle, an unidentified man that is seen on frequent occasions, and a headless horseman that gallops through the grounds. But probably the most well-documented story of all is of the ghost of a man that visited the castle 3 times in one night and then disappeared. A seamstress was brought in from the village to work in the castle. She'd finished her work for the day and gone back to her small little room. She read a few pages of the Bible before retiring to bed. She got into bed, and before she went to sleep, the door of her room opened. In came a figure, a man. He walked round the room, turned, opened the door and went out and closed it. At first she thought it was a real person. Then she realised it wasn't. She heard no sound from him. She knelt down and started to pray. While she was praying, he came in for a second time. This time she was terrified. She was shaking like a leaf, but he did nothing. He just turned and went out of the room again. She went to bed and went to sleep, and then during the early hours of the morning, he came back in again. This time, although she was terrified, she spoke to him and asked him what he wanted. He beckoned to her and asked if she'd follow him. She followed him to a room not far from her own, and he pointed to a loose floorboard. She lifted the floorboard, and underneath was a casket. He asked her if she would deliver the casket to the Earl of Powys, which she did. The figure was never seen again, and the Earl was so pleased with the gift that he gave the old lady lodgings in the castle for the rest of her natural life. So, settle back, give me your full attention, turn down those lights, and let me take you on a tour of haunted North Wales. I'm at Ruthin. Behind me, the Victorian luxury Ruthin Castle Hotel. All around me, the medieval remains of Ruthin Castle. You can wander these grounds and these remains while you're staying at the castle. It's got murders, it's got executions, sieges, and a fantastic ghost, a grey lady. So, come and join me as I wander these incredible grounds looking for their ghost. I've just been exploring, wandering around. I'm looking for the dungeons, which I know for a fact are under here. I've just gone up there, walked back down, and walked across here. And as I got to here, without the word of a lie, there was an echo of footsteps behind me. I'm still spooked. Every footstep I made, I could hear a footstep behind mine. Turn around to look, nothing, obviously. No footsteps, no imprints in the leaves or anything, but I really did hear something. And I don't like it, but I mean, it's broad daylight, the sun's shining, it's the end of June. You really don't expect ghostly goings on at this time of the day. But something really followed me down here, and that's not done me any good, because I'm now going down into the dungeons. And this dark hole, dating back probably to 1282. God knows how many people have been incarcerated down here. I'm going down on my own after having something happen to me just there in the daylight. God knows what's going to happen in the dark. And of course, like so many castles, that this goes back, the original foundations laid about 1271 by King Edward I, and castles were built, of course, for fighting. Many sieges laid to this castle. In 1400 it was besieged by Owen Glendower. He laid siege to this castle, but it withheld the siege, and he burnt Ruthin to the ground. And how many people must have died around here, I don't know. In 1646 it was again laid siege to, captured by Cromwell's soldiers and pulled down. This is the place where prisoners would be held. This is where people would be tortured. And it has a horrid feel about it. A cold, damp, very dark feel. There's something through here. There's an incredible archway through here leading to, I don't know where. Oh, there's a gap here. It continues, stops here, and yeah, there's a staircase leading to who knows where. Been stoned up for many, many years, and even up here, and yeah, there's a little window, a little arrow slip pointing back through there. They tell me that there's also an area completely stoned off where people were actually bricked up and left to die. Through here somewhere. Can't tell whether it's hollow, but there is a hole. Where that goes, I wonder if the light of the camera could point through and see how far it goes. Oh my goodness me, it goes right through. The walls are very thick. But legend has it that anyone that puts their hand in there can shake hand, not with the devil, but with the spirits that still linger in here. Dare I do it? Here goes. Oh, this is not nice. Oh God, can you imagine this if something grabs my hand now? No, it's coming out. I don't like that. No, nobody did. But what a tunnel. What a fantastic dungeon. Of course, the chances of ghosts being down here are immense because we're surrounded by stone. And I'm a great believer that stone holds recordings of a violent, tragic and premature death. Just listen to it echoing down here. And I believe that on certain times, perhaps when the atmosphere is similar to when the death took place, or perhaps it's the anniversary of that death, the recording is released from the stonework. Certain people see it again. But I don't think it's a ghost. I think it's a recording. Exactly the same as pressing the replay button of your video player. You see that event again. And I believe that happens down here. But it's very dark, very dank, rather spooky down here. Nothing's happened to me, thank goodness. I can see the light out there. All spirits, good and evil, crave the light. That's where I'm going, to the light. Out into the daylight, it's much better. I've got to find a grave, a lady's walk, and a drowning pit. So I'm going back up to see if I can find them. I'm in search of the grave of the Grey Lady. It's not that often you can actually find the grave of a ghost. I believe I have. This has all the right ingredients. Stonework, archways, and ivy everywhere. And through here, I am told, is the grave. Just a pile of stones now, where she rests. Well, she doesn't rest. That's why we're here. She still wanders. She is believed to be the wife of the second in command of the garrison here at the castle. Her husband was having an affair with a peasant woman. So his wife decided she would not be humiliated anymore. She attacked the woman with an axe. She beheaded her. The wife was brought to justice, brought back to the castle and tried, and executed for murder, and buried here in unconsecrated ground. And I believe that's why she still haunts this castle. The fact that she can't rest because of not being in consecrated ground. Now, it's broad daylight, it's sunny. Whether we can actually get a reading with this meter, I don't know. This is an EMF meter, which picks up electromagnetic fields, or breaks in electromagnetic fields. And of course, energy is everywhere. You cannot destroy energy. That's why I believe ghosts still haunt. But we'll switch it on and see if she happens to be around this morning. I would say it's highly unlikely. Ghosts don't usually appear to an audience. But we'll see. Nobody knows. If we get any sounds or any change, there is a possibility that she could be here. Well, right now I don't know whether this would be a head or a feet, but we're certainly getting a reading. And I don't know. Now look, there's no electricity. There's nothing. There's no cables. There's no light switches. There's no overhead cables here. There's no reason whatsoever for me to get a reading here on this spot, other than the fact that she could be around. Who knows? I have a horrible feeling she's waiting for me. There's just been a tremendous commotion. There's peacocks all over the place. And all of a sudden, the meter, again, is picking something up here, as if there is someone actually, oh God, is actually standing here. And again, there's of course there's nothing. We're talking of a medieval castle. There's no electricity around here. But I am getting a very good reading here, as if there's something standing by this gateway. I think she's going to be with me for the rest of the morning. I don't like this. Oh God. Yeah, it's absolutely a really good reading. I mean, it's just, the camera can just pick up. I don't believe this. Now look. She's gone. She's gone. I mean, nobody will ever know. Nobody will know that, because the camera, I don't think, picked up the reading here on this EMF meter. But as the camera came to me, no, she's back. And she goes. As soon as the camera comes close, there's nothing. I think we've got a camera-shy ghost. And this is the area where the Grey Lady walks. Even to this day, this is still known as the Lady's Walk. I wonder why there are so many stories of grey ladies. I believe it's what most people see. I've seen a ghost, and funnily enough, the thing that I say about it was that it was distinctly grey. It was a grey haze. I couldn't tell whether mine was actually male or female, but it was grey, so perhaps that's why. I've still got the EMF meter with me. As I entered the Lady's Walk, it was still active. But strangely enough, the one place where you'd expect to find her, she actually doesn't seem to be here. I'm quite pleased about that, because I thought she'd attached herself to me and that she may be following us round, but she seems to have gone. This is the most, it's one of the best places I think I've been to. It's the Ruthin Castle Hotel now, and you've got all the ingredients here for a fantastic haunted weekend. You've got an incredible medieval castle that you can wander the grounds at night. You've got a fantastic ghost story. So what better to do after dinner, as it's getting dusk, than wandering outside and wandering these grounds alone, if you dare. Right, I'm crossing this wooden bridge into the ruins of Denby Castle. As you can imagine, you always come in and research it first. You have a look first before you actually do it. The reason I'm saying this is because I've actually seen what I believe to be a ghost here in this room. I was coming in first time and couldn't understand why there was no kiosk to pay. And I'm thinking, oh, you obviously, I don't have to pay. And as I got to here, I saw there's a tent down there with a reenactor actually sitting in it. And as I got to this, close to this window, there was a figure, a dark figure, or a figure certainly in black, in this room. Now, I don't know whether it was sitting or standing. I sort of glanced and then continued, because then I realised, as I got to here, that I could see the kiosk where you pay, and there was a gentleman sitting by the door, apparently locked out. And I thought no more about this whatsoever. Went up to him, introduced myself, told him what I was doing, and asked if I could film here. And he said, yes, of course you can, not a problem. In fact, I'll get the key for you for the tower that we're going to see in a minute. And as we were walking back this way, I said to him, is there somebody in there in that room? A reenactor? Because that's what I thought there was. He says, well, no, I don't think there's anybody in there. I said, well, I've just seen a figure in there. So he and I went in, and he said, I don't really know this, but he said, this is the start of where the dungeons were. And if you just come with me, I'll take you in and we may as well have a look. Because I rather sheepishly wandered in here, and of course there isn't anyone here. He said, no, there was no one here. And it was here. It was in this spot where I'm standing now. And basically he said, you're not the first person to say that. People have actually sensed something in here. And all I can say is that I believe that I have seen a ghost. Now, this is the first ghost that I've actually seen while I've been doing the National Ghost Tour of Great Britain, and it happens to be in North Wales. I'm amazed, absolutely amazed. But we haven't actually come for that. We've come for a tower, the Goblin Tower, which is haunted. So I'll wander outside again, and we'll go down, and hopefully we've got the key to unlock the tower, and they're going to let us in. That very tower down there. Now, we've found the Goblin Tower, this is it. But how wrong I was. I actually pointed to the wrong tower, which of course was a chapel. Now, Trepper, you are custodian?
Yes.
This is your castle?
It is my castle.
It's
actually, the castle belongs to Heritage of Wales.
Of course.
I treat it as it's my castle.
And of course, because of that, you obviously love the place and get more visitors?
To know it quite well. The visitor numbers have increased over the last 5 years.
Since you've been here?
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
So,
tell me, this is the area, this is the Goblin Tower.
It is.
What's the history of it?
Now, the Goblin Tower actually came slightly later. It was the last section of the castle to be built.
Yeah.
And the reason the Goblin Tower came into being was the well inside the castle was insufficient for the people within the castle, as with it being so high up, the actual well used to run dry every summer.
Right.
So they needed a constant supply of water, and that's where this one was built. Now, this one was actually fed by a spring, and because it was spring fed, it was a constant wet, fresh water supply, and the water would have to be carried from here up to the castle itself. Now, this well was so important, at the top, on this end, they actually had a drawbridge to close it off in case the town was ever taken. They could still close off the drawbridge, and a portcullis gate on the far end, so you can actually close up here and actually defend your water supply from here.
So that's why this was built, in fact, to defend the well,
That's right.
to protect the well. And this is the well?
Yep, it's known as the Bloody Well.
Oh, right, that sounds good. Oh, my goodness. Now, it was even probably deeper than that once, was it?
It probably was a lot deeper than that. It's actually filled in with loose stone at the bottom.
Right. Now, there is a ghost story, that's why we're here, to do with the well.
Uh-huh.
Can we go down there?
We can go down if you wish.
Yes, let's do the ghost story from down there.
No problem.
Which way?
Down this way.
Right. How deep is it, Trevor?
I've not actually measured it, but it's slightly deeper than the one in the castle, and the one in the castle is actually 60 feet.
Now, Trevor, I must be honest with you. I don't think I've ever been inside a well before. This is haunted.
It is the haunted tower of the castle.
Right.
And it's haunted by a son of Henry de Lacy. Now, Henry de Lacy was the gentleman who built the castle and town here.
Yep.
Henry de Lacy had two sons, one heir, one spare.
Yeah.
But his spare, or his younger son, was actually killed at his castle in Pontefract.
Yeah.
Where he went over the battlements whilst chasing a ball and fell to his death.
Yeah.
But his elder son, Edmund, was actually fooling about on the top of the scaffold right at the
On the top of this tower?
The very top.
Oh my God, yes.
He actually slipped, lost his footing from there, actually falling down, tumbling not only into the tower, but down into the base of the well here. So where we're actually stood here.
He died?
Where he actually landed last.
Oh my gosh. And his ghost?
His ghost supposedly haunts the tower here. People have said over the years they've actually seen a small boy's face in the window, looking rather sad and dejected.
I can imagine. Yeah.
So,
now, because he was only 15, wasn't he?
He was only 15 years old.
So, in fact, father lost both of his sons from the falls.
Yeah.
My
so
goodness.
After all those years of building work here,
Yeah.
he's actually walked away from the castle and never actually saw it complete. With his last son and heir gone, there was nobody to leave it to. He left it to his daughter Alice, who married Thomas Earl of Lancaster, and he went into the Lancastrian line.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So the De Lacy line was finished on his side.
What a tragedy. Now, you let people come down here, of course, don't you? Give them the key and they can wander down here themselves. I bet you don't get many at night.
No, it's not the sort of place you'd like to go at night.
I can imagine that. That is amazing. Now, I mean, I didn't think we'd actually get down here. It's been amazing. Trevor, thank you very much for giving us, well, something rather special, an insight into a well. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
This is the lovely little village of Cwm in Denbighshire. Behind me, the Blue Lion Inn, voted best pub and restaurant 2002 to 2003. Across the road from it, very interesting little village church. Not only is it a good pub, but it's also a very haunted pub. But they're much more interesting on the inside, so let's go in and have a look. This building was originally a farmhouse, as you can see as you come in. Absolutely incredible. Huge fireplace here. And the story is that while it was a farmhouse, there was a father and his two sons that lived here. They were always rowing. One day the row got so bad that the local beadle was actually brought in to stop the argument. He went away after calming things down. 2 days later, he came back again. But only one son was here. Father and eldest son said that the youngest son had left, gone abroad, never to come back. Everyone believed that. Until one day, when they were digging in the churchyard, something very strange happened. We'll go up to the church and have a look in a minute. But the ghost of the boy called John Henry still haunts the pub. Even to this day, people still say that they see things and hear things. The landlord, Terry, says that on many occasions he can hear someone calling his name. He said he had a member of staff that used to work for him that could tell you at any time of the day or night exactly where the ghost of John Henry was in this pub. But most of all, they hear footsteps up above the fireplace in one of the bedrooms, walking quite quickly along the floor. And then there's a large, loud, rattling type thud as something hits the floor, possibly a body. No one's sure what happened, but everyone knows that the ghost of John Henry still haunts this pub. But the second part of the story is what happened when they were excavating in the church. The church is not far away from the pub. In fact, it was very easy in those days for folks to come straight out of the church, straight into the pub. But remember, of course, hundreds of years ago, this wasn't a pub and was nothing but a farmhouse. Here, the quaint little church. One day, when they were excavating, at the back of the church, they were building this tiny little extension here. And of course, they had to dig down the footings. And of course, there were graves here. But they found a strange grave. They found a skeleton in a grave, not in a coffin. In fact, the skeleton was actually lying on top of another coffin underneath there now, which was rather strange. What they believe happened was that the father and elder brother murdered John Henry for some reason in the farmhouse, brought him over here, opened up one of the graves and laid him on top of the coffin and filled it in. And they believe that's why the ghost of John Henry still haunts the Blue Lion pub to this day, because although he is buried in consecrated ground, he wasn't buried in his own grave. And they say that on many occasions people see a figure wearing old-fashioned clothes, dressed as a farmer, with his trousers tied with string, wearing a sackcloth on his shoulders and underneath a waistcoat. And he walks from where the extension is, down this path, and back to the pub, his haunt, waiting, I believe, to be given a decent burial in his very own grave. This is a very strange and much more modern ghost story. People often say to me, why are all ghosts dressed in old-fashioned clothes? Well, of course they're not, but this story concerns a phantom aeroplane, first seen in 1987 above the town of Abergele. Many people saw this plane, a large Second World War type transport plane, coming very low over the town. It was old, it seemed to be black in colour and rusty. It came so low over the town that people thought it was going to crash. And then for absolutely no reason, while they were watching, it just vanished. Quite a few of the townspeople made inquiries. They rang RAF Valley on Anglesey to see if a plane had been lost or had crashed. There were no reports whatsoever of a plane crashing. And then a few years later, here at Llangyrnu, little village in Denbighshire, the parents were picking up the children, and all of a sudden, along the valley, very, very low, came this plane. The same plane. Black, rusty, very, very low. Looked as if it was from the Second World War. It was so low that some of the parents and the children actually dived to the ground. They thought it was going to crash on the village. But it continued very low, heading towards hills. Everyone thought it was going to crash into the hills, but it just somehow managed to lift itself and struggle over the top of the hill. They waited for the crash, the explosion and the smoke. Nothing happened. They made phone calls to the local police and the fire brigade. No plane had crashed anywhere. That phantom plane had just vanished. But how can you see the ghost of an inanimate object like an aeroplane? I believe that it's not the ghost of the plane, but the ghost of the people that were inside it, that when this plane crashed, wherever it did, caused a recording. And that recording is seen over and over again by certain people on certain days. Whether it was the anniversary of the day that a plane crashed round here, I haven't yet managed to research it, but I probably will, just to see if it really did happen. If some real crash caused that phantom plane to reappear in the skies above this quiet Welsh little village. I'm in a park in the middle of Llanwrst. We were looking for a very haunted castle, reputedly one of the most haunted castles in Wales, but when I rang them they told me that they didn't want to publicise their ghosts, although they got a very extensive website. I think possibly they were too frightened of their ghosts. But as we were driving by, here in the middle of this park, I've seen this incredible druidic circle in a park. Now, of course, the Druids and Wales go together rather a lot. The Druids, of course, right back to Celtic times, were priests, soothsayers, storytellers, and of course much revered by everyone. Even, of course, when Julius Caesar first landed, he wrote a report saying that on the seashore were thousands of Celts painted with woad, and dotted amongst them were the Druids with large staffs uttering oaths up to the sky, which terrified the Roman soldiers to such an extent that they actually stood there while the Celts attacked them, and many were killed before they actually gathered their senses. But here we have a druidic circle, but not a real one, because this was actually put here for one of the Eisteddfords. But I thought, yes, we can't do Haunted Wales without a story of stone circles. And I have a book with me called Mysterious Britain, with, of course, a picture of Stonehenge, a much larger stone circle. But this bit interested me rather a lot. Legends can also turn into ghost stories, and vice versa. People researching into ghost lore frequently find a particular story which is told locally about a village's most famous ghost. And although everyone knows the story, no one has actually seen the ghost or knows when it was last seen. Thus a single sighting can become a legend, handed down from father to son, with slight amendments in the story as the years pass, but still with a basis of fact. Ancient sites often have their ghost stories, and the following quotation from Elliot O'Donnell's Phantoms of the Night may be a race memory of the activities which were carried out at stone circles. Singing and dancing ghosts are not uncommon in Wales, especially in places where there are druidical stones and circles. They are generally invisible, and the sounds of their voices, the pattering of their bare feet, and an eeriness in the atmosphere are the only indications of their presence. If you wanted to stay in a haunted hotel in Wales and you looked them up on the internet, this place would come up number one. This is the Castle Hotel at Conway. It's built on the site of a Sistine chapel. At the back of it, St Mary's Church and Churchyard. And there's also a plague pit. It's got an abundance of ghosts in here. The ghost of a little girl, a man. There's the ghost of what they believe to be a monk. People have seen ghosts in their bedrooms here. And one of the bedrooms, I think it's bedroom 104, has a large four-poster bed and an inscription on it. "O Lord, protect me through the night." But we've got some witnesses inside that have actually experienced ghostly goings on here at this hotel. So come inside with me and let's go and meet them. We're in room 204. Gina, you're the housekeeper. We've actually got an audience with us. We've actually got the North Wales Weekly News actually covering the story while we're here. But this is one of the many haunted bedrooms.
Yeah, one of the many.
And things happen to you here?
Oh yes, an awful lot of things. I think you often sense that somebody's with you in the room.
Right, when there isn't anyone, of course.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, but you just get that feeling. I've worked in here a few times. I've had the television coming on and the fan coming on in the bathroom. Sort of noises.
It plays havoc with electrics for some reasons, you know, so as you've said, lights and televisions and things like that.
Yeah, and
Poltergeist,
things get missing. Things get moved around.
Do they come back?
They do come back after an hour or two's hunting, I would say.
What, back to the same place or in a different place?
A different place.
Really?
They usually turn up eventually. It's as though somebody's playing a little bit of a joke on you.
Yeah. Have you seen anything?
I have actually.
Oh.
Yes.
Such as?
I've seen a young girl about 12 years old, I would say.
Right.
Shoulder length blonde hair. Through a glass door, I just actually looked up. She was there and she smiled at me.
So she knew you were there?
Well,
obviously.
It appeared as though she was looking at me, and I actually looked at her and sort of smiled a little bit. It's as though she was acknowledging me and accepting me as being here.
Good luck. Because I don't know whether you know this story or not, but there is actually a ghost story that goes back to 1927 of a young girl that came to work here when it became a hotel in 1927, when I think one of a larger chain took it over then, and there was a lady called Dutton who owned the place, and this young girl came to work here and she kept complaining of being unwell and saying that she feared she was going to die here, and the manageress told her not to be so stupid, to get on with the work, and she did actually die here in this hotel, and they buried her across the road in St Mary's Churchyard. Just literally at the back of you, isn't it? And apparently ghostly things started happening.
She actually died in the hotel?
She died in the hotel. And ghostly things started happening after she was buried in the churchyard, because apparently her wishes were that she was to be taken back to Anglesey, where she came from. And eventually they brought in a priest here, and he tried to exorcise the ghost and couldn't, and then a medium came in and they said the only way that they would do it any good would be to exhume the body and take it and rebury it, and they did. They dug her up from St Mary's Churchyard and took her back and buried her in Anglesey. And apparently for a period of time everything calmed down. It looks as if she's still around.
She was smiling.
Well, there I see. Yeah, well, she was probably just popped back to tell you that she was happy because she'd gone to Anglesey. But, so basically, anybody wants a decent haunted hotel in Conway, then the castle's the place.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Ladies, thank you very much.
Okay.
And of course, there has to be stories with cellars in a place like this. Graham, you're one of the directors of the hotel, and I believe that something has actually happened to you down here in this cellar.
Yeah, it was on a busy night, and right in the middle of service, as you can imagine, we're busy in the kitchen, and I needed something from the cellar. So I, as I've done thousands of times before, ran down the cellar. There's about 6 lights for me to get from one end of the cellar to the other end of the cellar.
Can we do it?
We can do it.
Come on, man. Let's reenact it.
So we switch on the first light.
Yes.
Carry on going.
Yep.
Then the next light, and I continue switching lights on as I'm going. I'm sometimes
Running.
Running. I need this thing quick in the middle of service.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Going
Yeah.
down it. The next light is on.
Yep. Oh, it's big, isn't it?
Oh yeah. And then the next one. And it's at this point here, which is probably halfway through the cellar now. There's another 3 or 4 lights down that way.
Yes.
As I turn this light on, before it actually flickers on, something pushes me to one side here and knocks me up against the, against the wall.
Right.
But not a solid push, more of a stroke aside sort of thing, pushing me
As
to
if
one
something
side.
had brushed you aside as it was going by. Or...
Yeah. Immediately I felt an intense coldness, and the hairs of my arms were sort of standing up as erect as possible. So really, really strange.
You'd got the light on.
Yeah, well you can imagine.
Yeah, light on. You're still running.
Bit of a second before it come on, and
You're here.
bang, this is where it hit me.
And then the light was on. Did you see anything?
Nothing at all.
Absolutely no sign. You obviously felt it, but it wasn't like a how can I put it? It wasn't solid.
No, it was more of a stroke. I could put it as a stroke aside. I pushed to one
But
side.
heavy, because it managed to get you up against the wall.
You're in my way.
Get out my way.
Yeah.
Did you sense anything as well?
Oh yeah, freezing cold, and laughing to myself more than anything that something had done this to me.
Yeah, but there was nobody in here, of course.
No,
That's
no,
obvious.
no.
Now, you were, I believe, a disbeliever.
Oh yeah, a major disbeliever.
Yeah. Now?
There's something there. There's something there.
Really?
Yeah.
Graham, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome.
And we're in Carnarvon. Behind us, Carnarvon Castle. King Edward II was born here, and of course invested as the first English Prince of Wales. With me, Steve, the landlord of the Anglesey Arms, which is behind us. Originally a customs house.
Customs and weights and measures, yeah.
And of course here, to the right of us, the original hanging tower. Back of us, of course, the courts, the prison, and all the poor unfortunates were actually hanged, strangled to death from that tower, right next to your pub.
Yeah.
And of course you've got ghosts.
Yes, we have, yes.
Well,
yeah.
can we, you've even got a haunted bedroom, I believe.
We have, yes, room 3, yeah.
And a haunted bar, of course, things happen.
Things happening in the bar, yes. Yeah.
Can we go in and have a look?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
cheers. Lead on. Right. Inside the pub, bar, haunted.
Definitely, yeah.
What happens?
Well, a lot of the locals have seen, I've just seen one thing happens, is that the glasses that are in the top here, they just sort of come out and hover for a second, and then they just drop. But
And
the
smash?
amazing thing, no, they don't smash, that's the amazing thing. And yet, sometimes the optic, you've had a bottle actually fall down onto the bar top, onto the floor, and that doesn't smash, and nothing spills out of it, and that's what we can't believe about it.
So in other words, it's for want of a better word, an unseen hand.
Yeah,
It looks like
yeah, I
that,
mean-
that lifts it out and takes it down rather than letting it drop.
Yeah, it takes it down a certain way, then it falls, and it bounces a couple of times.
And they don't drop.
They
They don't
break.
drop.
They don't actually break. I mean,
It's amazing, isn't it?
I've dropped glasses on there and they just shatter straight
Well, we're
away.
talking about a sort of a hard floor, aren't we?
It's a very hard floor.
Yeah.
Glasses, when we're busy and I knock them out of there, they always smash. Always.
Right. Now you mentioned something about the dartboard, which is over here.
Well, like you see in there now at the moment, someone's been playing darts.
Yeah.
And they leave the darts in. Normally if a dart falls out, it falls straight down.
Yes.
But these tend to jump out the board and end up sort of over in that sort of area.
Well, it's not possible. It is. It happens, obviously.
Well, the first couple of times I thought, it can't be because, gravity just falls, it might have hit the rubber mat and bounce. But I've actually seen them actually stood at the bar there and it just comes straight out and lands on the floor without bouncing first. Just one bounce over there, which is quite amazing to
Not
see.
natural.
No, it's
No.
definitely not. No, there's something happens.
Yeah, and of course things happen upstairs to your customers
Yes,
in
yeah, we've had,
the bedroom.
One customer, after about 3 or 4 days, she phoned up and said, is someone actually, she felt someone sat on the end of the bed.
Good grief. Can we go up?
Yes.
Have a look?
Yeah.
Great. Right, room 3.
Yeah.
The haunted bedroom. And so tell me, do things happen to people? Do they see things or?
No, the woman actually phoned up. It was totally out of the blue and we weren't expecting it. And she actually woke up in the middle of the night and sensed someone sat on the edge of the bed. She could feel the weight on the mattress. And she could sense something was there.
Was she alone?
No, she was with her husband.
But obviously he was in the, because
In the other
the
bed
twin
asleep.
bed, so he was asleep in the other
And
bed.
she actually woke him up. But by the time she'd woke him up,
Whatever had happened had gone.
Had gone and there was nothing there.
But she didn't come down in the morning and say, by the way, last night I had a ghost
No, it
experience.
was about 3 or 4 days later she phoned up, so it must have been playing on her mind.
Far more credible when something like that happens, because you know, you're talking of, I mean, obviously they know the stories of the place. You'd think they'd mention it when they came down for breakfast.
When I come to the breakfast room, I thought she'd have mentioned it.
Yeah.
No, nothing
So it
was-
dwells on the mind,
Yeah,
and then
she
2 or 3 days later the phone goes,
Yeah,
my
she
goodness.
actually asked if the pub was haunted, so I said yes.
Yeah, you see, yeah. And of course, when you think what you can see out of this bedroom window, you think that there, right next door to us, is the hanging tower, where I shudder to imagine how many poor unfortunate people were actually strangled to death with a rope, taking at least a quarter of an hour to die of slow strangulation, because in those days they didn't drop you and break your neck, they just suspended you and let you strangle to death, kicking, writhing. So we're talking horrendous death.
Not very nice at
So
all.
yeah, so no wonder things happen. So basically, this is the room to request if you want to stay in a haunted bedroom opposite a hanging tower with, would you believe, a scaffold outside? But of course, it's a different sort of scaffold, unfortunately, because you're having renovation work doing, which is another reason why things happen. You know, when building work's being done on an old property, it tends to disturb ghosts. Either they don't like what's being done, or sometimes if you're knocking a building about, removing bricks and things, it tends to do a little bit similar to what happens when a cassette player falls on the floor. The jolt makes the recording come on again. And it's a bit like that with ghosts. It causes the recording to be played again, which is possibly what's happening here with the work that's going on outside. But who knows? But so this is the place to stay.
It is, yeah, if you want,
If you want.
You can feel and sense things. I mean, you can hear people walking. And if you go out and have a look in the corridor, there's nobody there.
Really
I've heard it a few times, but I don't know.
wonderful. Steve,
I don't know.
thank you very much indeed, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's day 2, end of the day, getting dusk, I'm getting tired, but we just had to come here to Montgomery Churchyard to find the robber's grave. This is the grave of John Newton Davis. He was hanged for highway robbery, but he was innocent. He was hanged in 1821, and in those days, highway robbery, along with 199 other crimes, was still a hanging offence in this country. Mr. Davis had become the bailiff to a lady called Mrs. Morris in Shropshire at Oakfield Farm. He turned the farm round, but by doing this he'd upset 2 local men. A man called Robert Parker, who wanted to buy some of the land and the farm to extend his own, and another man called Pierce, whose ancestors once owned Oakfield Farm. They decided to set Davis up, and one night when he was at market at Welshpool, riding back late one night, the 2 men confronted him on the road and made out that he was a robber and he'd robbed one of the 2 men. He was brought before the Welsh magistrates, who believed these 2 local men, and he was sentenced to be hanged, and was hanged by slow strangulation in 1821. But as he was dying, as he was choking and writhing and kicking, he made a vow and asked God to let the grass never grow on his grave for at least 1 generation. And in 1852 it was recorded that still no grass grew on this grave. A rose tree has now been planted here. There is plenty of grass growing around it now, but I've just found the poor dilapidated grave actually collapsed. Something as famous as this, I think, should be put right. This is Davis's lasting headstone, the robber's grave. And they say that his tormented soul still wanders around this churchyard to this very day.